Okay, so as I mentioned in the announcements, right, we are like a boat that is switching the direction. Main reason is class that I was supposed to teach is meant for very, very upper level philosophy majors, which we have none of in the class this semester. So I've switched it to a topic which I think is much more interesting, to be honest, and also more adapted to your level, which is a class I taught a few years back called Philosophy of Happiness. So give you a little background how I came up with that class, and then we'll go over kind of what we'll do in the class and briefly again the assignments and so forth, which are a little bit different. So I came up with this class a few years ago after going through some really difficult time in my life. And I was kind of, the difficult time happened in the fall. The whole fall I was teaching, but with no enthusiasm. I was just coming to class and, doing what I had to do because I wasn't feeling well. And then in the spring, I was still, not feeling like teaching or doing anything at all. And I thought, let me do this class on happiness, right? Maybe that will motivate me and maybe it will help me, right, to come out of this dark place that I was in, and at the same time maybe it will help some of you, right? So I put together what we're going to be doing in the semester, and I have to tell you that this stuff works. So I practiced, right, what I was teaching. I was practicing it. I was regularly doing, because we're going to be studying some texts, but mostly what we're going to be doing is shifting our perspective, right? In order to get through difficult times or, crisis or traumatic times, it's very helpful to shift your perspective. So there are practices you can do, there are shiftings you can do, and I can testify that this material actually works, right? It's slowly I started to come out of my own depression. I've been practicing shifting my perspective, continuing to do that right after even teaching the class. And when I was hit again, right, because we're hit over and over again in this life, right, I was able to actually navigate much better. So the texts I'm going to offer in this class are really, they work. Whatever they're saying, whatever advice they're giving us, it actually does work to help navigate what I'm going to call in this class these dark nights of the soul, right? We all go through several of those. And often a lot of us just sink when it happens, right? But there's actually a way to gracefully navigate those. And these texts are really kind of like lighthouses, right, in the darkness. And we can really actually find orientation in this dark night through these texts. So these are very, very powerful texts. So before I get into the text, what kind of text there are, I see a few questions. So hi, Bokari. Yes, we do. Wait, is it September 9? Let me check. Yeah, technically on September 9, yes, we meet on campus in Pub. So that's so we'll have this session, the next session on Thursday, together online. And then next week we have a break, Tuesday's vacation, and then next Thursday we'll be on campus, yes, in person. Very good. Okay, so let me get into these texts, introduce you. That's mostly what I wanted to do today. So first text we're going to do is most ancient text. It's in the Hebrew Bible. It's a text written by a king called King Solomon, and he was actually king during the golden age of Jerusalem. This was the highest moment, the climactic moment for the Hebrew people at the time. This was, I'm going to talk about Solomon and who he is and why he's such a fascinating individual. But he wrote a very powerful text towards the end of his life, and it's interesting because the text, when you read it on the surface, right, sounds extremely cynical, right? This is a very dark text. And in fact, if you're in a depressed phase, it's very good to go read that text because you will find a companion, right? So on the surface, the text sounds very cynical. There is statements in this text where he says, you know, everything is meaningless, nothing, there is no point, because in the end we all die, so what's the point of doing anything right? Right, so there's a kind of a very strong sense, atmosphere of despair in the text. But what very few commentators have found are these moments of ecstatic light that flash through the text, that open up. As we read the text, you have this darkness, and all of a sudden you have this moment of light where he has a deep insight, right, into the nature of reality, into where he's going, into why he's here, and then he falls back into the despair, right? So very, very, very beautiful, profound text on life and on how to live in the way which is the most ecstatic, right? So this text, underneath the darkness, you have such a treasure of wisdom as to how to live life gracefully, in spite of the fact that life is full of surprises, some good, some bad, in spite of the fact that life is so fluid, so out of our control, and yet there's still a way to navigate gracefully through such a life. So this is very powerful, very beautiful text that we will be doing, and this is very ancient text too, dating from around 1000 BC. I'm putting this in there. So this is the book of Ecclesiastes. So after this text, we shall go east, right? This is the one time that I'm doing some Eastern thought in my classes. Why? Because the Eastern philosophies have really, really gone very deep when it comes to living a blissful life, right? The West hasn't really explored that so much, right? We're more about, I don't know, what else would we, you know, need to think about, really? But we have gone into all kinds of other preoccupations. But the East really has mastered, in my view, the ability to walk through life with serenity, right? And there is a secret to that. They're not faking it, right? They're not hypocritical. They're not putting on a face, right? There is really a secret that they have tapped into, which is making them able to walk through life with serenity. And I'm talking about the Hindu traditions and the Chinese traditions, right? They both have explored the key to living in this chaotic life, right? Where anything could happen, where there is death, suffering, you know, all kinds of chaos and accidents, and yet you can actually walk through this life with dignity and with serenity. And of course, there is a technique, there is a practice, there is something we have to discover along with them, which is the source of that serenity, right? So the first text we'll do is a very ancient compilation of sacred texts called the Upanishads. So this is actually a sacred text, but sacred, why? Because the whole Upanishad is talking against traditional religion. So I don't know if maybe it's a sacred text, but it's definitely not a religious text, right? Because in the text, right away, we're going to see as we start reading that this is a text which doesn't want to go along the traditional Hindu religion at the time, the popular religion, which was, you know, kind of, you know, you're trying to worship the forces of nature and appease them, right? So this text is rising above all that, right? This is more of a philosophical text. And we're going to see in this beautiful text that the key to happiness, right, is to learn to transcend this reality and tap into a deeper reality. So they are actually saying that there is more to life than meets the eye. There's a deeper realm. There's a deeper reality that we are oblivious to. But if we were to tap into it, we would find such a powerful source of bliss that we would never, right, go back to living the way we used to, right? Complaining, you know, suffering, being all wretched all day long, right? So this Hindu text is going to teach us really, first of all, about this deeper reality. And then what we're going to do in class is learn some of the practices that they propose in order to tap into that deeper reality, right? This is not something you tap into intellectually. Unlike Western philosophy, which is all in the head, right? A lot of these philosophies we're going to talk about are things that you can only access through certain physical practices, right? Through the body. So we're going to look at that and study that. And we're going to be doing, since we're a small class, we can do that. We're going to be doing a little bit of yoga, right? In order to tap into that reality. Okay, so then we'll go into Chinese text. And this is the Tao Te Ching, written by Lao Tse. So which actually I learned in Chinese just simply means old man. So we don't even know who this person is. We just know the old man, right? So Lao Tzu actually lived during the time of Confucius, when Confucius was a thing. So you had a very structured society with very strict rules as to where everything fit, right? And Lao Tzu is kind of going against that trend, right? He's saying actually, yes, it's true. We have more order, we have more harmony when we all follow the rules specific to our gender or age or and so forth. But he's saying we are really missing the true bliss we could be having if we lived just without all of these societal conventions, just pure attunement to nature, right? And of course, nature is a big word. We don't know exactly what he means by that, but he actually is talking about not so much nature, but the inner. It's hard to talk about. Even he says you cannot talk about this, but he calls it the Tao, right? And the Tao is, of course, this inner, perhaps, intelligence of nature that we attune to. So he's saying if we were to simply attune ourselves to the intelligence of nature, right, we would spontaneously do the right thing. We don't need all these rules. We don't need all these conventions. We would spontaneously do the right thing and live artfully and gracefully in this life. No matter what is happening, we would be kind of like a tree swaying in the wind, right? Nothing would break us. Nothing would, uproot us. We would just go, beautifully waving along with the chaos, right? So of course, we have to learn how to do this because naturally we're rigid. Naturally, we want to resist. So we have to learn to loosen up. And the teaching of the Tao teaching is really a big teaching about how to loosen up. How to loosen up and go with whatever is happening so that you can actually emerge unscathed, unbroken, unuprooted, right? So this is really very profound teaching, again, how to deal with life's chaos, right? What is the best way to do so? So this is one of my favorite books. And we are also going to do some practices here. We're going to be doing some Qigong. We're going to do the famous Qigong that every Chinese person knows, which is the 8 treasures. I'm going to teach it to you. And this should help you to attune to the Tao. Good. After that, after the Tao teaching, we shall go into Christianity. And we're going to explore the Gospel of John. And it's funny, right? You might wonder why Christianity is talking about happiness? How? Right? When you enter a church, it's kind of gloomy usually, right? There's like a crucifix, there's a dead Christ on the crucifix. Everything is very somber. Everything is very... and this is in my view because we have completely missed the original teachings of Jesus, right? We have turned Christianity into a religion of death and suffering and guilt and shame, and we have in a way missed the true message of the Christ, which was a message of how to live the most ecstatic, joyous, blissful life you can. Right? So we completely missed that, right? So in fact, Nietzsche, whom we'll study later in the course, is going to emphasize that, right? He's going to criticize Christianity very, very acutely and say, you have become a religion of death, right? Whereas the true teachings, right, of the Christ were really teachings about how to have the most ecstatic life possible, right? So we're going to talk about this ecstatic life, and we're going to look at 2 very interesting stories in the Gospel of John, the 2 conversations that Jesus had. One was with a very respected teacher of Israel, and the other one was with a very despised woman, right? 2 very opposite characters, and we're going to see that the depth of the conversation he has with these 2 individuals is going to reveal to us some of the secrets of how to live an ecstatic life, right? And not a life burdened down by suffering and so forth. So this is the uncensored, forgotten teachings of the Christ, right? That the church in a way has buried in order to have more control over the minds and bodies of its, its clients, of its congregations, right? So we're going to go and rediscover this teaching. After that, we shall go to the Stoics with Epictetus. So this is Roman philosophy. And I hope you're seeing how we're traveling also in time, right? I didn't mention, but the Upanishads are let me write this down here. Upanishads are around 500 BC. Tao Te Ching is around 400 BC. The Gospel of John is around 100 AD. And then Epictetus around the same time, right? Around 150 AD. This is all approximate. I'm kind of roughly remembering the dates. It's not exact. So we're traveling kind of over really millennia, right? So Epictetus, actually very interesting character. He was actually born a slave. And then he was so intelligent that his master set him free. He's like, yo, you can't do this kitchen work. I'm going to set you free. You're going to go to Rome and you're going to study. So he studied and he became a prominent philosopher. And he started his own school, the school of Stoicism. And we're going to see that actually, you know, we have misunderstood, in my view, Stoicism to be like, you know, when something hits you, you kind of just clench your jaw and you suck it up. It's not that at all, right? Stoicism actually very close to Chinese philosophy. It's all about, again, attuning to the intelligence of nature, very similar to the Tao Te Ching. And basically receiving whatever nature puts on your path, whether it's painful or joyful, whether it's hard or easy, whatever situation nature puts you in, you receive it. And that is the key, we're going to see, to living a peaceful, blissful life. So we're going to talk about that. So after Epictetus, we move about 1,000 years, around 1000 AD, the Middle Ages. We're going to meet Muslim philosopher AlGhazali. Very interesting also individual. He started out as a philosopher and he finished a poet, a mystic. So in the Middle Ages, actually, there was a conflict between mysticism and philosophy. And they were constantly fighting, right? Philosophy was saying, no, we need to stay rational. We need to think things through, right? When it comes to life. And the mystics were saying, no, we need to be possessed by the divine. We have to set aside the intellect. So they were always fighting among each other. And AlGhazali started as a philosopher and shifted, right? He was in a way converted into mysticism. And so he wrote this book, The Alchemy of Happiness, very beautiful title. Talking about this time the importance of the heart, the organ of the heart for our happiness. And he says, you know, the heart is where the divine dwells. And very often we miss the presence of the divine, or the divine cannot enter us because our heart is so full of darkness. And so he talks about the necessity to purify the heart so that it can more truly shine and what's the opposite of infusing? I forgot the word, but anyway, so that anybody know? Lanera, you want to help me?
You mean like defusing?
Thank you. Diffusing, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Yes, so that we can diffuse that light, right? And very often we don't have any light in our hearts because the heart is so full of darkness. And so he says we have to purify the heart so that the divine presence can dwell there, and that is when we achieve, right, happiness and serenity. So we're going to talk about that a little more. This is a little more religious take. And then we're going to end with Nietzsche, with a big bang, right? This is around 19th century. And Nietzsche is kind of, you know, kind of amazing thinker, very, very witty, very funny. I call him kind of the stand-up comedian of philosophy because he's just so irreverent, not politically correct. He will be in your face and make you look stupid, right? But he's very intelligent, right? Very witty, very, very pleasant to read. So he's going to also talk about happiness, actually. And he's going to talk about how to find true happiness away from the consolations of religion, right? We know that many people say, if you want to be happy, you need to be religious, right? He's going to say, no. We don't need that, right? He's going to end by he's going to simply say, you can be happy, but you have to redefine what it means to be happy. Does it mean to be just comfortable? Or does it mean to be ecstatic, right? And he says many people just think that being comfortable, being protected, being shielded is going to make them happy. And he says, no, we have to enter life with a bang, right? And we have to not be afraid of the highs and the lows, because that is what true happiness is, right? To experience life to the fullest. So that's the itinerary for us. These are very, very these are classics, right? And it's, in my view, an excellent introduction to philosophy because you really get a sense of world philosophy, not just Western. You get a sense of how, I mean, we're going all over the world. I mean, the only people we missed is the continent of Africa, right? Which we were going to do initially, but now not anymore. Okay, so any questions on the itinerary, on anything I said so far? Okay, good. All right, so these books, I'm still compiling them. I will put on the QC bookstore what I have already, right? Because I'm still trying to find the right edition. I'm trying to find the right Epictetus. I have all the other books, but I don't have the right Gospel of John. I don't have the right Epictetus. So, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up I'm going to put all the books on the QC bookstore so you can already buy the ones I have. And then I'm going to add the other two in a couple days. So just so you know that the list I'm going to give you today, I'm going to put it up so you can start buying them. The list I'm going to put is incomplete. I'm going to add a couple more books in the week to come. So yes, so please buy those books, very important. I see these books as companions on your journey, right? We're going to be traveling a lot, right? We're going to be really going through all kinds of territory. You know, we're going to have all kinds of culture shocks, language barriers. It's going to be a real journey, right? This is, I tend to tell my students, I want you to see this as a study abroad, right, class, where we really encounter perspectives that are completely alien to ours. And there will be also generational conflicts, right? The way the ancients are thinking is not the way we're thinking, right? And of course, all the language barrier and so forth. So on this voyage, right, on this journey that we're about to take, I want you to have these books as companions, right? These books are really what you should bring home from your journey, right? Once we've visited each philosopher in their country, right, in their time, I want you to take the book as a kind of remembrance, souvenir. This is kind of what you have kept, right, from our journey. And these are good books to have, right? You can always, read them again when you're going through stuff, when you're going through your own dark nights. You can pick up some Nietzsche, some Epictetus, remind yourself, right, how to do this. Like I told you, this stuff works, right? I applied this in my own dark night and started to come out, and I've been applying it ever since. And it's much easier for me now to be confronted with a crisis, right? Because I know exactly how to navigate it, right? These books, this is your navigational skills in the storm, right? It's easy if you're at the beach, you're in the sand, and you have a little water and you're like, wading in the water, it's easy to be fine. But and once you are in the deep ocean, if you do not have the navigational tools, you will crash, right? And that's the problem with most of us in our civilization. We are not taught how to face a crisis. And so we end up falling into addiction, or we become overweight, or we break up with anybody who loves us, or we start becoming, entering some criminal behavior, right? We don't know how to deal with the crisis that hits us, which will inevitably hit us if you're still innocent about this, right? We don't know how to approach suffering. And the ancients, all the way to Nietzsche, have given us these navigational tools, have given us these keys in order to be able to gracefully go through the crisis or the dark night. So this is really, in my view, this is basic class everyone should take. This is life 101. So I think they should teach us in high school, going back to my big issue with no philosophy in high school. Okay, so very important. So please buy the books. I'm gonna put them up now. I'm gonna put the list on the QC bookstore. If you want to buy them on your own, that's okay, but make sure you look at the cover, look at how the book looks like, and make sure you get the same book, right? Because there are several different versions of each book, and if you get the wrong version, when I'm quoting from the book, this page, that page, you won't know where we are, right? So make sure if you're getting the book on your own, that you have the same edition, the same publisher, same ISBN number, so that you can follow in class. Okay. Now, Usually I do, when I'm doing a class like this, I do initiation how to read philosophy. So the texts here are not as technical, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm going to do right now a brief initiation how to read philosophy because a lot of you have never done so. So you need to be uh, prepared. So there are 4 steps to my initiation. But first of all, let me briefly talk about how these books will be completely different from any book you've ever read before. This is the any book you read. Usually, if you take any book, whether it's a textbook or maybe a novel or whatever, you read and you understand what you read. This is typical. If you take a history book, if you have basic reading skills, right? If you know English, you open a history book, you're going to read the sentence, you're going to understand. Same with biology, right? If you know a little bit the concepts, you read biology, okay, I understand. Newspaper, novel, okay. Philosophy, different world. Philosophy, typically, when you pick up a philosophy book and you start reading, you will notice that you don't understand. Okay, so if you're going, and you will, as you're going through these texts, you will be reading and you'll be like, wait, what? And you'll reread and it's not going to help. So let me tell you a little bit why philosophers write like this, right? There's a reason why these texts, why philosophy is one of the rare disciplines which is completely inaccessible often to immediate, right? If you want to immediately understand, it's not going to happen. So the main reason is this. Most of what you are reading out there is talking about what we philosophers call the physical world. Okay, this is a world of what you see, hear, touch, you can analyze, dissect, put under a microscope, remember, it's written in some chronicles, right? Everything that we are talking about usually or reading about is something that exists in the physical world, right? Now, philosophy is not interested so much in the physical world as it is interested in what we call the metaphysical world, right? Philosophers, and I'm going to ask you a question in a second, but philosophers are people in the world who have the intuition that there is more in this life than meets the eye, right? They have the sense that there is a profound mystery surrounding us, right? So I'm going to ask you, I'm curious, how many of you have ever, right, you walk through life and you've always, and have you ever sensed that there's something more going on, that there's something deeper that you can't touch or sense, but it's there, that there's something profoundly mysterious surrounding us? So I'm curious, how many of you, you can put your hand on the screen, have had this experience, right? Okay, so a few of you, right? So we have a lot of already philosophical mindsets, right? If you have a sense of this mystery, of this hiddenness, of something deeper, you are already a natural philosopher, right? Because this is how we are. I remember even as a child, right? Before I even knew philosophy existed, I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. I remember, so we used to live in a very beautiful place. It was an island in the Indian Ocean. It was very beautiful, very tropical climate and so forth. And I remember waking up very early. And I would go maybe 5 o'clock in the morning and I would go outside and just nature was just, waking up. And I remember feeling like surrounded by this amazing secret, right? This amazing, good, hidden secret. And it felt like a big present, right? I don't know, you know how a child, everything is thought in terms of presents, right? So it felt like there was a big gift wrapped, hidden from me, surrounding me in the atmosphere. It felt like there was an amazing happy secret, right? So that, now I reflect on it and I realize I was already being a little philosopher, right? I was already sensing that there's something so powerful surrounding us, but I couldn't put the word on it, right? And later, it's so interesting because later I started to be introduced to philosophy texts. And when I opened up my first philosophy text, I had exactly the same feeling coming from the page, right? The words were so mysterious and they gave me the same feeling of, ooh, there's a big secret here, I like this, right? So you need to know that these texts, they are talking about this secret. They're talking about this mystery. They're talking about this hidden layer of existence, which most of us completely miss. And that's why we are so miserable, right? And so we must understand that when you're trying to describe this hidden layer, this mysterious presence, right? This secret, and you're trying to say it with words, it's gonna be kind of hard to explain to the average person about this big mystery with words, right? And so philosophers, actually, the reason they're so hard to read is they're trying to describe something which we cannot see. which is not obvious, right? Which most people don't even think exists, right? So that's why you will see a lot of these philosophers, right? Often what they resort to is, and we'll see in this text, there's a lot of poetry, right? They just say, I can't say this with real words, I'm going to say it poetically, right? So they don't even, so they have to find a secret language to talk about it. And poetry is often very good secret language to talk about the hidden depths of the universe, right? So many philosophers, I think Solomon, Lao Tse, the Upanishads, even the Gospel of John, talk in metaphors, riddles, parables, poetry, right? Because average words cannot explain it. So they have to use a more playful language in order to, or a more mysterious language in order to transmit to us this reality they're sensing, right? So this is why when you read, you will not right away understand. In a way, these texts, they're locked up. Every single one of them has a lock, right? And we have, and in a way, they're only opened by the true seekers among us, right? So these are texts which have been locked up for centuries, right? Waiting to be discovered, but of course, not many people take the time to really seek out these texts. In this class, we're going to do that. We're going to unlock these texts one after the other. We're going to really seek out this profound truth, this profound revelation about the nature of reality, the nature of the human condition. So, but you have to expect as you're reading that these texts are going to be esoteric, right? Even you understand the sentence, you're like, what does he mean, right? So they're going to be, and it will take a little bit of detective work, a little bit of digging, a little bit of imagination, discussion, thinking through the text together to really get to the hidden meaning of it. So be advised, right? The texts are not as technical as what we were going to do, but there's certainly, there is an element of esoteric, right? There is an element of mystery in these texts that we will have to decipher, right? These texts together. So first thing, so now back to the initiation. First thing you will need is a pencil. And you might ask, what? Why do I need a pencil? Right? So pencil is actually very useful when you're reading something like philosophy to underline all the passages that you do understand or the passages that you like. So as you're reading, a lot of it will go over your head, but some passages will hit you, right? If a passage hits you, it's for you, right? It's for you to explore. The text is trying to get your attention because it's, I don't know, the text doesn't have a subjectivity, but clearly there is something that you are resonating with, even though you don't understand yet why. You underline that, you circle it so that you can remember it and explore it more deeply, right? So always read these texts, underlining, putting things in the margin, question marks, exclamation points, smiley faces, happy face, sad face, whatever, right? You want to really actively engage the text. You don't want to be a passive reader. You want to be a seeker. The more the text senses that you are seeking it out, the more it will open up to you, right? This is like magic. If you're reading the text like, oh, ho-hum, right? Who cares? You're going to get nothing. But if you're reading with this like, I have to know. Ooh, here's this. Ooh, I like that, right? Somehow the text, something will happen that will open up to you in a way that it wouldn't if you're not actively seeking it out with this pencil, right? So always read with a pencil. I should actually have inspections of your texts, right? I have this temptation sometimes to go and inspect the text to see if they're properly underlined and scribbled in. Okay, second initiation, you need to read. Make sure you're always reading these texts with enjoyment. So this is very important. Actually, let me ask you this question. How many of you took a class that you absolutely hated, including the professor? The topic and the professor you loathed. Anybody had this experience? Okay, a few of you. Me too. I took a class in ethics in college, and I hated everything about it. It's the only class I failed. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do good in that class. So you'll notice that when you hate something, you're not absorbing it. It's not coming in. It's like, right? But when you love something, all of a sudden you become good at it, you assimilate it, it's a second nature immediately, right? And so we know now that love, right, when you love something, it has an effect on the body and the mind. when you love something, I think Spinoza talked about this, right? To love is to open up, right? When you love something, your mind opens up, your heart opens up, and immediately you're more receptive and you are able to receive it more. And so this is why I emphasize the second point, to read with enjoyment, meaning to read with love. If you're reading with love, you will be open and you will be able to receive in a way that you won't be able to if you're reading with, you're in a hurry, you're stressed, you're like, let's get this over with, right? So for me, it's so important. In fact, we meet maybe twice a week. I want you to pick each time the best moment of the week to read these texts, right? So maybe Sunday morning when everyone is sleeping, you make a cup of, coffee and everything is quiet. You take your, Tao Te Ching and you're like, okay, now I'm going to read this, right? Or in the bathtub late at night, you have little candles and now you take out the Upanishads, right? Or maybe in the subway, once you've blocked out everything completely, right? You can also, so really relish these texts. I want you to read these texts and I want you to delight in them, right? In fact, I'm so serious about that I often tell students who are slow readers that I prefer you read less but enjoy it than read the whole assignment and hate it, right? So if you're a slow reader, I'm actually fine with you reading less but really relishing it. If you're a fast reader, you have no excuse, you should read the whole book. Okay? So that's the second thing, to read with enjoyment. Point 3. Urgency. Okay, so again, right, this particular class especially is a class really about life. This is a class that you will use. The skills you get in this class you will need. And maybe some of you are going right now through a crisis, right? You should take this class, the readings and the lectures, as any moment you're going to get the revelation you need to move forward, right? You should be reading like this with like a beating heart, like, I'm turning the page. Any moment now I'm going to get this huge epiphany about how to breathe again in this life, right? How to relax, how to finally be happy, how to finally be at peace. At any moment I might fall upon that passage, right? Any moment the professor going to say something, right? So I want you to read with urgency, right? At any moment something powerful could happen, right? In fact, I've really structured the class. My goal in the class is that every single one of you leaves transformed with something that you can hang on to the next time you get hit by a crisis, right? That's my goal, that no one will leave empty-handed. Everybody will leave with some precious key or light or something, right, that will help you navigate the next crisis. So technically, you should be urgent. You should have this urgency because I have structured the class so that you cannot be disappointed. At one point, something's going to hit you, right? Okay, last thing, read together. So I tell my students there's 3 things you should never do alone: drugs, alcohol, and philosophy. If you see yourself drinking in the morning by yourself, this is a red flag. Just letting you know, right? If you think you're going to try this new drug by yourself, no. If you're going to try a new drug, make sure you have your friends with you to catch you when you want to jump out the window, right? So always, if you're going to do these things, fine, but do them with people, right? So philosophy is the same, right? If you start to try to find your path in life by yourself, you're going to you're going to fall down so low, right? You're going to break yourself so powerfully. To find, right, the wisdom how to live, the wisdom to be happy is really, you cannot find this on your own. Any type of wisdom, right? Wisdom is not something you can find on your own. Wisdom is something that we learn. Wisdom is something that we receive, right? It's not something that you have. I disagree with Plato there, right? Something that you receive. And so it's very important, especially in a class like this, to be in a state of openness to what other people have to say. So this is why in the class we'll have these moments of discussions among yourselves where you really discuss the text together and open up to each other so that you can have a broader perspective on how to move forward. So that's the initiation. As you can see, right, the goal when you read these texts is not for you to understand the text. The goal is for you to experience these texts, right? I only expect you to understand the lecture, not the text. The text is there for you to experience, to enjoy the the mystery of the text. You have to enjoy the text as this kind of riddle or enigma that, ooh, I hope we can pierce it, right? I hope we can resolve, right? Solve it. So I want you to kind of go in the spirit of adventure, right? Curiosity, wonder as you read these texts, right? Maybe, you know, something amazing is going to happen. I don't understand it right now, but eventually I will, right? Okay. So any questions so far on the initiation, on the books, or anything like that? All right. So briefly, I did this last time for the other class, but I'm just going to go over briefly the assignments. It's pretty much the same. So we are meeting in person, hopefully, right? If something happens, we're back online. It's okay. We'll start meeting, like I said, September 9, I believe. That's what was my conversation with Bokhari, right? September 9, what did we say? Where'd it go? I'm looking in the chat what I said. Oh my God. September 9, yes, we meet again. Now, where? We don't know yet. For now, it's 152. Yes, Powder Maker 152. So we'll go there for the first day, and then I'm going to see if the room is good enough for us. We might have to change. Okay. Okay, so regular assignment, basically, almost each time we meet, right? Anytime you have a reading, which is almost every time, we have, if you can see here, the syllabus. Let me give you a page. I'm cutting out. Am I? Everybody else feeling like this, that I'm cutting out? No, I'm okay, Ramos? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you're good now.
It's you. It's not me. Okay. All right. If you look at the syllabus, you'll see that there are moments where there's readings, and there's moments where there's just a deepening practice, and then there's moments of just introduction, right? Like September 23, for instance, you just see the Upanishads. Anytime there's no page numbers, you have no work, right? Only when there are page numbers, you have to do this assignment, which is called the reading assignment. Reading assignment is simple, one page. I think I mentioned this last time, single spaced, 4 paragraphs. So same thing as what I said last time. 2 questions, 2 critiques. Okay, so you're reading these texts. These texts are written in a way to awaken questioning, right? So you can't sit there and be like, I have no questions. You're an animal if you're like that. Because the texts were written, right, really to awaken questioning, right, to awaken curiosity. So surely when you're reading, you're going to be like, oh, I wonder what he means by this concept, or what does he mean by this riddle or this word, right? So you're asking these questions and you're trying to answer them, right? You're trying to imagine, well, maybe he means this, maybe he means that, you know, and you kind of try to give a response. And then the other 2 paragraphs are criticisms. So you disagree. You understand what the author is saying, but you disagree. So this, you need to make 2 copies. The first copy you hand it in the drive before class. And the second copy you bring to class because you will use it in the group discussion. Okay, because basically your group discussion at the beginning of each class, we're going to have a group discussion. You will be exploring the text together first. You will be sharing your questions, your criticisms, and hopefully the other students in your group will respond. Maybe they can agree with you or help you with a question and so forth, right? So yeah, you don't have to print them out. Have it in your head, right? If you can't have it in your head, bring it, but you just remember, or have a little jot down, right? A few notes on what you wrote in the reading assignments, just so that you have it in your mind, so that you can share with the other students, right? So really you want to have, so make sure you hand it in to the Google Drive. Of course, remember that I don't accept late reading assignments, so they have to be on time. If you do miss 1 or 2, it's okay because they're only 1 point, right? But you don't want to accumulate that, right? Okay, so that's for the reading assignment. Good. Second thing we'll be doing is what I mentioned, the group work, right? Every time we have a reading, you'll be in your little groups in the class for about 15-20 minutes, and where you'll be discussing, grappling with the text together. And this is also just 1 point, so if you miss that, it's again no big deal. I've arranged so that, you know, if you're sick over 2 weeks, you don't lose that many points. That's how I've arranged it. So again, right, don't be late. Latecomers, you don't get the point. Latecomers don't get credit. So you need to make sure you're on time to these groups. Don't come in like, you know, 15 minutes late and expect to get your point, right? You want to make sure you're on time out of respect for your group, right? So that they don't have to start all over when you arrive, like a, you know, flower. So that's the second kind of regular thing you'll be doing. And then I think about once, yeah, it's about once a month. You'll have a test and the essay. Okay, I have a question. Castro, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry if you made it clear, but so there's only reading assignments for the days that have the page numbers.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Other times I'm just introducing or we're doing the deepening practice, right? Okay. So tests, essays, this is about once a month. The test, the best way to prepare for it, I think I mentioned last time, but I'll say it again, is to take copious notes, right? Your test answers are entirely based on the lectures. The more you take notes, right, the more detailed your notes, the better your test answer, the higher your grade. So right from the start, every word coming out of my mouth is on your paper, right? That's how you can get a really good grade. And second thing you need so first thing you need is a lecture, and the second thing you will need to do well on the test are the quotes, right? So anytime I'm reading from the text, from the book, and I'm saying, okay, I'm reading a quote and I'm commenting on it, you underline that and you keep it because you're going to need to put that in your test answer, right? Anything you're saying from the lecture should have support from the books. And usually I will bring up these quotes in class. You don't need to go look for extra quotes. Whatever I'm talking about in class, you're underlining meticulously so you can integrate it into your test answers. So that's how you would prepare for the test. I think your test questions, oh, I should have done that. Okay, normally, okay. Yeah, I didn't do that because it's a new class, so I don't have them in mind. But I'm gonna give you the test questions ahead of time, before the test. So you have time to prepare and you know what's going to be on the test. And the test will be take home. So you can actually use all your notes, your books, whatever. You can totally do the test with all of your material. So Critchell is asking, will the lectures be recorded? Yes. So like I said, this class is really conceived as if you can make the in-person, right, because you're sick or somebody in your house is sick or whatever, I will be, hopefully it will work, I have to try it, but this Zoom classroom will be open. And I will be filming myself in the classroom, in the Zoom classroom. So you just enter the Zoom classroom and you will see me, and I will see you. And then everybody else will be in the classroom, right? So anytime you need, and I think there's actually one of you who's gonna be chronically in the Zoom classroom, right, Deeb? So there's one of you going to be there. And then whoever gets sick or has some problems, you know, you want, yes, Dib confirms, right? So whoever, you can join Dib when you're sick in the Zoom classroom. Good, so we'll be doing that. Where was I? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so the test, each test question, just so you know, is one page, single spaced. So it's quite a bit of, you know, it's kind of an essay question. You'll have two. You'll have usually two test questions, so two pages. Okay, the essay, this is very fun. I like the essay very much. The essay is basically, I want you to look at where you are in terms of happiness, right? How happy are you? How well are you doing in this life? How gracefully are you navigating, right? And I want you to then begin this journey, in this inner journey, right, towards happiness, towards achieving happiness. And I just want to stop on this notion of inner journey, right? We tend to think as a civilization that to be happy, I have to get this and get that. I have to get a degree, get a house, get a husband, get a wife, get children, and then I'll be happy. That's not true. Once you have all those things, you will still be miserable, I can predict, if you haven't found the inner journey to happiness. So this class actually is coming from the presupposition that nothing in the outside world will give you the happiness. It is an inner journey, right? So these essays are you on this inner journey. You are beginning, you're taking your little inner boat and you're starting on the inner river. And the essays are kind of like a journal that you know, how do you call this? Like when you're on a ship and you have a journal. Is there a technical word for that? Nobody knows. Where is my translator? Um, who was the one? Lanera, help me. You helped me before. What's the word for somebody who has like you're traveling on a boat and you have a journal? Is there a word for that? Nobody knows? Okay, well you know what I mean. Okay, it's like a little traveling journal. So you're
Like an
so
explorer or something?
what?
Like an explorer? Like someone who explores?
Yeah, kind of like exploring journal. Yes, you can say
It
that.
would depend on what they're doing to explore.
Yes, so let me explain again then. So basically, you're journaling where you are in your inner journey. Are you far ahead? Are you nowhere? Did you start? Did you end? Right? And then I want you to bring in whatever we studied and tell me, is there anything in what we studied that caught your attention, that you feel is helping you move forward, that you feel has unlocked something or take out a block, right, out of your path? So I want you to really kind of reflect on what we studied those last 2 weeks, how it affects your inner journey, what struck you, what really made you excited about what we did, and has anything helped you, right, move forward in your inner journey to happiness. So the essay is due the day of the test, and it's 1.5 pages, single spaced. Yeah, like in-depth autobiographer, Dib. Yes, I like that. In-depth auto. It's like your biography, but of your inner life, not your outer life, right? Where are you right now in your inner journey? I want to know. And then how have what we studied, how is that illuminating your journey, taking away some roadblocks and so forth? Yes, I do. Exactly the same as my intro to religion class, except now you're thinking more specifically of happiness. Yes. So those who took my classes before, this is the general format, what I'm telling you now. Okay, great. I think that's it. Yeah, sorry, I didn't put that in the syllabus, but there's the deepening practices are also graded, so you need to be there. Deepening practices, like I said, will be part of what the class is what we're gonna learn in the class is that happiness is not an intellectual thing. It's really something. You can achieve it. Of course, intellectually helps to shift your perspective, as we're going to learn. It will help to see things differently, but there are some practices you can do which can help you become a happier person. Right? So we're going to talk about these practices, and the deepening practice, which comes after each text, we'll have like a whole class time dedicated to it, will be one of those practices that we learn along the way, right? So you need to be there. They're 1 point also, 1 point each. Okay, I am pretty much done. Any questions on anything we are doing? Okay, great. Just curious. Just curious. How many of you actually prefer to be online rather than in person? I'm just wondering. Just put your hand in the screen if you, let's take a poll. How many of you prefer online and how many of you prefer in person? So how many of you prefer online? Just raise your hands. So I see one. Okay, how many of you prefer in person? Okay, so this is an in-person type. Okay, great, very good. Just curious. I'm always trying to gauge where students are, especially with COVID, right, which is getting a little complicated. I want to see how safe they feel about being in person. I'm planning personally to wear a mask while I'm teaching. After I heard that horrifying story in California, did you hear this about the teacher? She was teaching kids, right? And she was sick without knowing it. It was the beginning of whatever. And she was without a mask. And like the first 2 rows all got sick. I apologize. You're going to have to memorize my face because I'm going to be with a mask from now on as I'm teaching you because, yeah, I mean, apparently, even if you have masks, I can contaminate you if I'm sick. So I'm going to be wearing a mask. Castro, you have a question?
Yeah, so you said after September or on September 9th, correct? Like, will every class be in person from there on, unless
Yeah.
if something happens?
Yes,
Okay,
every
perfect.
class is in person, yes, in this particular class. So, yes, so what's due for next time? Well, you are in luck. I believe that nothing is due for next time because, actually, wait, next time is Thursday. Yeah, nothing, because I'm going to introduce you to Ecclesiastes. And then, hold on, I'm looking at the syllabus. Where's my syllabus begin? Here we are. And then September 14, wait, September 9? Yes, September 9 you'll have something due. And I'll tell you on Thursday what will be due next time, so that you're prepared. And I will also put it on the announcements so that you get used to it, and then you'll get in a rhythm eventually. It looks like a lot, but actually there's a rhythm. So you'll get in a rhythm and you'll remember easily. Ramos, question.
Yeah, so ideally you want us to have the readings by Thursday or by September 9th?
The books,
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, actually, to be honest, it's not a big deal for the book of Ecclesiastes, because you can find it in any Bible. So if you don't have it yet, because it's my fault, all the books are, I'm just going to put them up to date. So if you don't have the wisdom books, right, which is the title I gave here, by next week, you just use a Bible or find it online, Ecclesiastes online, right? So eventually by September 23, yeah, by September 28, you need the Upanishads. So as long as you have the books, and by that time you'll have all the books. So yes, for this particular book, the first book, it's you might have a hard time getting the book on time, so you can actually just grab a Bible and you're fine. Okay, let's see. I see another hand. Where are you? Azerad, yes, speak to us.
If we find all the books online, do we still need to have a copy of it?
So it depends, right? Because are they the right editions? Because as I'm going through the books, I'm saying, okay, on page this and this, I'm gonna read, and so I'm turning to the page, and you are in a different, different edition, right? So you're gonna be like, where are we? So it's not good, right? Unless it's the same book, then you're okay, right? So
Okay.
I'm gonna put them up today, now, after class. So you check to see if it's the same book, then you're good. Um,
Okay.
if not, you can switch it to the book that works. Yeah, otherwise you're
Okay.
going to be lost. Although for Gospel of John, you can get away with it because I'll go by chapters, right? Ecclesiastes also, I'll go by chapters, so you can find it. But when you get to Upanishads, Tao Te Ching, you need to have that. Otherwise, we're gonna. Although even the Tao Te Ching, yeah, some of these books you can get away with it because there is actual chapter numbers that are across the board, right? But some of them you'll struggle, like Epictetus, Nietzsche. You need the actual book. Okay, let's see if there's anything in the chat online. I don't know what Dave is saying. Okay, all right. Great. Any other questions? No. All right. In that case, I will set you free. Wait. Oh yeah. I was like looking at the time. I was like, what? Okay. Yes. So I'm gonna stop the recording.